Since then, I've had innumerable prophetic dreams. I had a dream in 2002 about my mother dying. 1 year before she died, I had a very vivid, detailed dream. I was shown what was going to happen. And I was then told when I woke up that I would get a phone call from my sister. I was told what she would say, and I was told what the dream meant. Now, if I told you the dream right now, it probably wouldn't make any sense to you. But when I woke up, the Lord walked me back through it and interpreted it for me. And then He told me what was going to happen. I told the word of the Lord that came to me. I told my wife, I said, this is what's going to happen. I said, I'm going to get a phone call from my sister. She's going to tell me that my mother's sick, but it's very minor, and I shouldn't worry about it. She's going to be fine. The Lord told me that when I get that call, she's not going to be fine. She's going to die very quickly. So you must get down there. She lived 140 miles away. Be with her. In the dream, I saw myself holding her hand because she was afraid, comforting her, leading her to trust Christ, praying with her, and then she died. The Lord said, when you get this phone call, she's going to die very soon. Run and be with her. Stay with her. Love her. Pray for her. Comfort her. If you don't, she'll die alone in fear. So sure enough, about a year later, I got the phone call exactly like the Lord told me. My sister called me, said, Mom's sick, but don't worry, it's a minor thing. He wants to keep her one night in the hospital on antibiotics, send her home tomorrow in the morning. But I just want to let you know. I thanked her and hung up, turned to my wife and said, that's the call the Lord told me I was getting. I need to go. I just got my stuff packed up right there and drove down. The whole dream came to pass exactly as I was showing. And I was holding my mother's hand, praying with her, comforting her, loving her, helping her to trust the Lord, committed her as she died. I was holding her hand, and I said, we commit you to the Lord Jesus Christ, as she went off. Isn't it awesome that God would give a prophetic dream like that? Now, as I was thanking the Lord for that dream, then I remembered what my mother had told me. She had had 4 miscarriages before I was born. And then when she was carrying me back in 1956, she started hemorrhaging, and it looked like she was going to lose me also. Back in the 50s, doctors made house calls. So the doctor came by the house, and he knew that my mother had already had a number of miscarriages, and he told her, Mrs. Sweet, the chances for you to carry this baby are very slim. He said, your only hope is to stay in. Sorry, I'm just remembering my mom. He said, your only hope is to stay in bed and pray. But you can't get out of bed because every time she got up, she'd start to bleed. My mother and father were both good Catholics. They believed in Jesus. My dad especially was a God-fearing man. So she stayed in bed, I don't know how long, but she told me it was months. So she said, for months I stayed in bed. She said, Joe, even when I would get up to just take a shower, I would start bleeding a little bit. I'd take a shower real quick and get right back in bed. So she said, for months she laid in bed and dedicated me to the Lord. There was no ultrasound saying if I was a boy or a girl back then, but she had a feeling I was a boy. And she said, God, let this baby live. If you'll let him live, I dedicate him to you. And I'm going to... My mother and father prayed. She said, I'm going to name him Joseph after Joseph in the Old Testament. Now, what made her do that? Isn't that amazing? God answered their prayers, and I made it here. And isn't God good? Yes. See, my mother's prayers affected your life. That's the ripple effect that our prayers have. It's a ripple effect that our lives have. So I made it here. So I want to talk to you about prophetic dreams. And a little bit before I share some of the words that the Lord gave me. Now, God uses dreams to guide His people. In the first 2 chapters of the Gospel of Mark, 4 times God spoke to Joseph, the husband of Mary. 4 times in the first 2 chapters of Mark, God spoke to Joseph to guide him as he led Mary and the Christ child. God did that to keep him from Herod, to keep him alive. In Genesis chapter 37, the Lord used dreams to speak to Joseph about his destiny. He saw his brothers and sisters bowing before him, right? In Genesis 41, God gave Pharaoh dreams that would affect the whole nation and the surrounding nations. Pharaoh didn't understand the dreams, but Joseph had a reputation not only for having dreams, but for being able to interpret the dreams. Joseph interpreted the dream.